9-year-old girl cried and begged, "Mom, please stop," until the father returned home unexpectedly. What happened next shocked everyone. Hello, friends. Welcome to our story. Before we start, please like this video and subscribe. Also, tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? New York, London, maybe South Africa, or Jamaica? We want to know. The black luxury car rolled quietly through the tall iron gates and stopped in front of the enormous white mansion. William Jackson stepped out, his expensive suit wrinkled from the long flight, his face lined with exhaustion after 6 weeks away on business. He stretched his tired shoulders and looked up at his home, the place that used to feel warm but now felt strangely empty every time he returned. In his hand he carried a pink gift bag. Inside was a beautiful teddy bear he had bought in New York, the kind with the soft brown fur that 9-year-old Mary had once pointed at in a store window, her eyes shining with hope. William smiled slightly, imagining her face when she saw it. He could almost hear her excited voice calling, "Daddy, Daddy," and feel her small arms wrapping around his neck the way she used to. But as he walked toward the front door, pulling his suitcase behind him, something felt wrong. The house was too quiet. Usually Clara, the housemaid, would be at the door smiling, or he would hear Mary's footsteps running to greet him. But today, nothing, just silence. William unlocked the door and stepped inside. The marble floors gleamed. Everything looked perfect and expensive, just like always. But the silence pressed down on him like a heavy blanket. "Mary," he called out, his deep voice echoing through the empty hallway. "Daddy's home." No answer. He frowned and set his suitcase down by the staircase, still holding the gift bag. "Sarah, Clara, anyone home?" Then he heard it, a sound that made his blood freeze in his veins. A child's cry, muffled, desperate, coming from somewhere upstairs. "Please, Mom, please stop. I'm sorry. I'm sorry." It was Mary's voice, his daughter, and she sounded terrified. William's heart began pounding in his chest. He dropped the gift bag on the floor and ran toward the stairs, taking them 2 at a time. The crying was coming from Mary's bedroom at the end of the hallway. "Please, Mom, it hurts. I promise I'll be good. Please stop." William's hands trembled as he grabbed the door handle. What he saw when he pushed the door open made him feel like someone had punched him in the stomach. Mary was kneeling on the floor beside her bed, her small body shaking with sobs. Her beautiful black hair, which was usually neatly brushed, was messy and tangled. Her school uniform was dirty and torn at the sleeve. And there, standing over her like a giant shadow, was Sarah, his wife, holding a wooden ruler in her raised hand. "How many times do I have to tell you?" Sarah's voice was cold and cruel. Nothing like the sweet voice she used when William was home. "You don't deserve to eat at the table. You don't deserve anything in this house. You're nothing but a burden." "Mom, please," Mary begged, her voice breaking. "I didn't mean to." Smack. The ruler came down hard across Mary's small shoulders. The little girl screamed in pain and curled up tighter, trying to protect herself. "What is going on here?" William's voice exploded through the room like thunder. Sarah jumped and spun around, her eyes wide with shock. The ruler fell from her hand and clattered onto the floor. For a moment she just stared at William, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. "William," she stammered. You're home early. I thought your flight was tomorrow." But William wasn't looking at her. His eyes were locked on Mary, his daughter. His precious little girl was trembling on the floor, tears streaming down her dirty face, her arms wrapped around herself protectively. When she saw him, instead of running to him like she used to, she flinched and pressed herself back against the wall, her eyes filled with terror. That look broke something deep inside William's heart. He moved quickly, dropping to his knees beside Mary and gently reaching out to her. "Baby girl," he whispered, his voice shaking. "It's okay. It's Daddy. I'm here now. Mary stared at him with wide, frightened eyes. Her bottom lip quivered. "Daddy." Her voice was so small, so broken. "Yes, sweetheart, I'm here." William carefully pulled her into his arms. She was so light, so thin, much thinner than she had been 6 weeks ago. He could feel her tiny ribs through her uniform. His chest tightened with pain and anger. "William, I can explain." Sarah's voice changed completely. Now she sounded sweet and innocent, like a completely different person. It's discipline. Mary has been so badly behaved lately. She threw food on the floor. She talked back to me. I was only trying to teach her respect the way any good mother would." "Shut up!" William roared, standing up with Mary still in his arms. His face was red with rage. "Don't you dare call yourself her mother. A mother doesn't beat a 9-year-old child. A mother doesn't terrorize a little girl." Sarah's fake tears started flowing. She pressed her hands to her chest dramatically. "But William, you don't understand. I've been trying so hard to raise her right while you're always away. She needs discipline. She needs to learn. She needs love," William shouted. "She needs kindness. She needs someone who won't hurt her." He looked down at Mary in his arms. She had buried her face in his shoulder, her small body still trembling. Gently, carefully, he pulled back her sleeve. What he saw made rage explode inside him like fire. Bruises, dark purple and yellow bruises, covered Mary's thin arms. Some were old and fading. Some were fresh and angry. There were marks on her wrist that looked like someone had grabbed her too hard, scratches on her shoulders. And when William gently touched her back, Mary winced in pain. How long? William's voice was deadly quiet now, which was somehow more frightening than his shouting. "How long have you been hurting my daughter? I never. Those bruises are from her falling. She's clumsy. She don't lie to me." William's eyes burned with fury. "I am not a fool, Sarah. I can see exactly what these marks are." How long? Sarah's face changed again. The fake sweetness disappeared. Now her face twisted with ugly anger. "You want to know the truth? Fine. Yes, I disciplined her. Someone had to. You're never here. You're always flying around the world, playing the big businessman, leaving me alone with your bratty daughter. She's spoiled. She's difficult." She looks at me with hatred. "I was trying to fix what you ruined." "Get out," William said, his voice ice cold. "What?" "Get out of this room. Get out of my sight. Pack your things. You are never touching my daughter again. Never." Sarah's face went pale. "William, you can't be serious. I'm your wife. We're married. You love me." William looked at her with disgust. "I don't know who you are. The woman I married would never hurt a child. Get out now, before I call the police. You'll regret this." Sarah screamed, her face ugly with rage. "Get out!" Sarah grabbed her purse and stormed out of the room, slamming the door so hard the walls shook. The room fell silent except for Mary's quiet crying. William sank down onto Mary's small bed, still holding her close. He looked at his daughter, really looked at her for the first time in weeks. Her face was pale and thin. Her eyes had dark circles under them. Her lips were chapped. Her hands were rough and red like she had been doing hard work. She looked like a little ghost of the happy child she used to be. "My baby girl," William whispered, his own eyes filling with tears. "What have I done? What have I let happen to you?" Mary finally spoke, her voice tiny and broken. You came back, Daddy. Of course I came back. I always come back. But she said you wouldn't. She said you didn't love me anymore. She said you liked her more than me. She said." Mary's voice broke into sobs again. "She said you would send me away if I told you anything." William felt like his heart was being ripped in half. He held Mary tighter, rocking her gently like he used to when she was a baby. "Listen to me, Mary. Look at me, sweetheart." Mary slowly raised her head, her tear-filled eyes meeting his. "I love you more than anything in this whole world," William said firmly, his voice thick with emotion. "You are my daughter, my precious, beautiful daughter. Nothing and no one will ever change that. I should have been here. I should have protected you. This is my fault, and I am so, so sorry. It's not your fault, Daddy," Mary whispered. "You were working. That doesn't matter. You are more important than any job, any business trip, any amount of money. You are the most important thing in my life. And I promise you, no one will ever hurt you again. Do you hear me?" Mary nodded slowly, then suddenly wrapped her thin arms around William's neck and burst into fresh tears. But these tears were different. These were tears of relief, of safety, of finally being protected. William held his daughter and cried with her, his heart breaking for all the pain she had suffered. His mind filling with guilt for being absent, for trusting the wrong person, for failing to see what was happening in his own home. Outside the door, old Clara, the housemaid, stood in the hallway, her hand pressed to her mouth, tears rolling down her wrinkled cheeks. She had wanted to tell Mr. William the truth so many times, but Sarah had threatened to fire her, to destroy her, to make sure she never worked again. But now, maybe everything would be different. "Thank God," Clara whispered. Thank God he finally saw the truth. But what William didn't know yet, what no one knew, was that this was only the beginning. Sarah's cruelty was just one part of a much bigger, darker secret. Behind everything, pulling strings like a puppet master, was someone even closer to William, someone he trusted completely. Someone who wanted to destroy him and take everything he had. And that person's plan was already in motion. William carried Mary downstairs to the kitchen. She clung to him like a baby koala, her face buried in his shoulder. He could feel her heart beating fast against his chest. "C.L. William," called out as they entered the bright, spotless kitchen. The elderly housemaid appeared from the pantry, her eyes red from crying. When she saw William holding Mary, fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. "Mr. William, sir, I'm so sorry. I should have." "Clara, it's okay," William said gently, though his voice was still tight with anger. "I need you to help me. Can you prepare some warm food for Mary? Something soft and easy to eat?" "Yes, sir. Right away, sir." Clara hurried to the stove, her hands shaking as she began heating up soup. William sat down at the kitchen table with Mary still in his lap. He brushed her messy hair back from her face with tender fingers. "Sweetheart, when was the last time you ate a proper meal?" Mary's eyes dropped to her hands. I had some bread yesterday morning." "Yesterday morning?" William's voice cracked. "That was more than 24 hours ago. What about lunch, dinner, breakfast today?" Mary's small voice was barely a whisper. She said I didn't deserve to eat at the table. She said I had to earn my food by doing chores. But when I did the chores, she said I did them wrong. So she sent me to my room without food." William closed his eyes, fighting back the rage that threatened to explode again. He took a deep breath. "How long has this been happening? Since you left." 6 weeks ago. 6 weeks. His daughter had been starved and beaten for 6 weeks while he was away making business deals and signing contracts. While he was staying in fancy hotels and eating expensive meals, his little girl was going hungry in her own home. Clara placed a bowl of warm chicken soup in front of them along with soft bread. "Here, little one. It's slowly okay. Your tummy needs to wake up gently." Mary looked at the food like it was a treasure. Her small hands reached for the spoon, but they were shaking so badly she could barely hold it. "Here, baby, let Daddy help you." William took the spoon and carefully brought it to Mary's lips. She sipped the soup slowly, and William saw tears rolling down her cheeks as she ate. "Why are you crying, sweetheart?" he asked softly. "It's so good, Daddy," Mary whispered. "I forgot what real food tastes like." Those words stabbed William's heart like a knife. As Mary ate, Clara stood nearby, wringing her hands nervously. Finally, she spoke up. "Mr. William, sir, there's something else you need to know." William looked up at her. "What is it, Clara?" The old woman hesitated, glancing toward the doorway as if afraid Sarah might appear. Then she squared her shoulders and said, "It's not just Miss Sarah, sir. There's someone else involved. Someone who's been coming to the house when you're away." "Who?" "Your brother, sir. Mr. Lucas." William frowned. "His younger brother, Lucas. What about him?" "He's been visiting almost every day while you're gone. He and Miss Sarah. They have long private meetings in your office." They closed the door. Sometimes I hear them arguing about papers and money, and Clara's voice dropped even lower. I heard Miss Sarah tell him that everything was going according to plan. According to plan? William's eyes narrowed. What plan? "I don't know, sir, but a few times I heard Mr. Lucas say things like, 'Soon the company will be ours and William won't know what hit him.'" "I'm sorry, sir. I should have told you sooner, but Miss Sarah threatened me. She said, if I told you anything, she would have me arrested for stealing." William's mind was racing. Lucas, his own brother, the brother he had helped through college, given a job in his company, trusted with important projects. Could Lucas really be plotting against him? But then he remembered something. 3 weeks ago, he had received a strange email warning him to check on his daughter. He had thought it was spam. But what if someone was trying to warn him? Clara? "Where is Sarah now?" William asked. She went to her bedroom. "Sir, I heard her on the phone yelling at someone." "Good. Keep her away from Mary. I need to make some calls." William gently set Mary down in the chair. "Baby girl, you stay here with Clara and finish eating." "Okay, I'll be right back. Don't leave me, Daddy." Mary grabbed his hand, panic in her eyes. "I'm not leaving. I'm just going to the living room right there." He pointed through the doorway where she could still see him. "I'll be 10 feet away. You can see me the whole time. I promise I'm not going anywhere." Mary slowly let go of his hand, though her eyes stayed locked on him. William walked into the living room and pulled out his phone. First he called his lawyer, Richard Campbell, the best and toughest lawyer in the city. "Richard, it's William Jackson. I need you at my house immediately. It's an emergency." "What's wrong, William?" "I need to divorce my wife, get a restraining order, and possibly file criminal charges, and I need you to investigate my brother Lucas. I think they've been working together to harm my daughter and possibly steal from my company." "I'll be there in 30 minutes, Richard said, his professional voice turning serious. "Don't let Sarah leave the house and start gathering any evidence you can find." Next, William called his head of security. "Tom, I need you to review all the security camera footage from my house for the past 6 weeks. Send everything to my email. And I mean everything. Every room, every angle, every day, right away, sir." Then William called his personal doctor. "Dr. Stevens, I need you to come to my house immediately. My daughter has been hurt. I need you to examine her and document all her injuries. This might become a legal case." "I'm on my way," the doctor said without hesitation. William hung up and stood still for a moment, his jaw clenched. He looked back toward the kitchen where he could see Mary eating slowly, Clara sitting beside her protectively. His daughter, his precious little girl. He had failed her, but he would make it right, whatever it took. Upstairs, Sarah's voice echoed through the hallway. She was shouting into her phone. "Lucas! Lucas, you need to get over here now. William came home early. You saw everything. The plan is falling apart." There was a pause. I don't care what you're doing. This is an emergency. If you don't help me, we're both finished. He's going to figure out what we've been doing." Another pause. "Fine, but hurry and bring those papers we talked about, the ones from his office. We might need them as leverage." Sarah ended the call and stared at herself in the mirror. Her perfect makeup was smudged. Her carefully styled hair was messy. For the first time in months, her mask was cracking. She grabbed her designer suitcase from the closet and started throwing clothes into it. If William was serious about kicking her out, she needed to be ready. But she wasn't going down without a fight. She and Lucas had worked too hard on their plan. For 6 months, they had been slowly destroying William from the inside. While Sarah kept him distracted with fake happiness at home, Lucas had been stealing money from the company, leaking secrets to competitors, and turning the board of directors against William. They had been so close to taking over everything. But now, Sarah's phone buzz. A text from Lucas. "On my way. Don't worry, we can still fix this. William doesn't know everything yet." Sarah smiled coldly. Lucas was right. William might have discovered her treatment of Mary, but he didn't know about the forged documents, the stolen money, the lies they'd spread to his business partners. He didn't know that half the board members were already on Lucas's side. There was still time to turn this around. Downstairs, William returned to the kitchen. Mary had finished her soup and was nibbling on bread, though her eyes were drooping with exhaustion. "Come on, sweetheart," William said gently, lifting her up again. "Let's get you cleaned up and into fresh clothes." As he carried Mary toward the stairs, the doorbell rang. William opened it to find Dr. Stevens, a kind-faced man in his 60s, carrying a medical bag. "Thank you for coming so quickly," William said. "Of course. Where's the patient?" "This is my daughter Mary." William's voice was heavy with emotion. "She's been abused by my wife. I need you to examine her and write down everything you find. Every bruise, every mark, everything." Dr. Stevens's face grew serious. "Let's go somewhere private." They went to William's home office, a large room with leather chairs, wooden shelves full of books, and a big desk. William sat Mary down gently on the leather couch. "Mary, this is Dr. Stevens," William explained. "He's going to check your bruises and make sure you're okay. I'll be right here the whole time. Is that all right?" Mary nodded slowly, though she looked scared. Dr. Stevens was gentle and kind. He examined Mary carefully, asking her where it hurt, checking her arms, her back, her legs. With each new bruise, he found his frown deepened. He took photos with a special medical camera and wrote detailed notes. "Mr. Jackson," the doctor said quietly, "these injuries are consistent with repeated physical abuse over several weeks. Some of these bruises are at different stages of healing, which means the abuse happened multiple times. She also shows signs of malnutrition and dehydration." William's hands clenched into fists. "Can you write an official medical report? Something that can be used in court?" "Absolutely. I'll have it ready by tomorrow morning." "And Mr. Jackson." Dr. Stevens looked at Mary with compassion. "This child needs therapy. Not just physical healing, but emotional healing. What she's been through, that kind of trauma, doesn't go away easily. I'll find the best therapist in the country," William promised. "Whatever she needs." After the doctor left, William carried Mary to the bathroom and helped her take a warm bath, being careful not to hurt her bruised skin. He dressed her in clean, soft pajamas, the ones with little stars on them that she loved. Then he tucked her into his own bed, the big master bedroom where she would feel safe. "Daddy." Mary's small voice came from the pillows. "Yes, baby. Are you really staying this time, or will you have to go away again for work?" William sat down on the edge of the bed and took Mary's small hand in his. "Listen to me very carefully, sweetheart. I'm never leaving you like that again. Never. My company, my business, my work, none of it matters compared to you. From now on, wherever I go, you go. And if I can't take you with me, then I'm not going. You are my priority. You are my everything. Promise." Mary's eyes were wide and hopeful. "I promise on my life." William leaned down and kissed her forehead. "Now sleep. You're safe. I'll be right here." Mary's eyes slowly closed, exhaustion finally winning. Within minutes she was asleep, her breathing soft and even. William sat there watching her, his heart aching. How had he been so blind? How had he trusted Sarah so completely? How had he not seen that his own brother might betray him? His phone buzzed. A text from his head of security. Footage uploaded to your private email. Warning, it's disturbing. William opened his laptop and logged into his email. There were dozens of video files organized by date and camera location. He started with the kitchen camera from 2 weeks ago. What he saw made his blood boil. William sat at his desk, his laptop screen glowing in the dim light. Mary was sleeping peacefully in his bed just a few feet away. He put on headphones so the sound wouldn't wake her, then clicked on the first video file. The footage showed the kitchen from 2 weeks ago. The timestamp read 1:47 p.m. William watched as little Mary walked into the kitchen, her school uniform neat and clean. She looked so small and fragile. Sarah entered a moment later. Even through the silent security footage, William could see the anger on her face. Mary said something. William couldn't hear with the sound off, but he could read her lips. "I'm hungry. Can I have lunch?" Sarah's response was sharp and cruel. She pointed at the floor. Mary shook her head, tears forming in her eyes. Sarah grabbed Mary's arm roughly and shoved her toward a corner of the kitchen. Then Sarah picked up Mary's school lunchbox and dumped the contents into the trash can. William's jaw clenched as he watched his daughter cry, silently begging. But Sarah just walked away, leaving Mary alone in the corner. He clicked on another video. This one was from the hallway 3 weeks ago. Mary was carrying a laundry basket almost bigger than herself, struggling with the weight. She stumbled and dropped it. Clothes scattered across the floor. Sarah appeared like a storm. She grabbed Mary by the hair and dragged her to the floor. William could see Mary screaming, crying, trying to pull away. Sarah's hand rose and fell, slapping Mary across the face. What, twice? 3 times. William had to pause the video. His hands were shaking. His vision blurred with tears of rage and guilt. This had been happening in his own home under his own roof while he was away closing business deals. He forced himself to continue watching. Video after video, each one worse than the last. In one clip, Sarah made Mary kneel on uncooked rice for 2 hours as punishment for talking back. In another, Sarah locked Mary in a dark closet for half a day. There was footage of Sarah forcing Mary to clean the entire mansion, scrubbing floors, washing windows, carrying heavy buckets while Clara tried to help secretly, only to be yelled at by Sarah. The worst video was from just 3 days ago. Sarah had grabbed Mary's precious diary, the one her real mother had given her before she died. Mary was crying, begging for it back, but Sarah ripped pages out of it and threw them in the fireplace. Mary collapsed on the floor, sobbing as her memories burned. William closed the laptop. He couldn't watch anymore. His whole body was shaking with rage. He wanted to storm upstairs, but no, he had to be smart. He had to handle this the right way for Mary's sake. He looked over at his daughter, sleeping peacefully for the first time in weeks. She looked so innocent, so small. How could anyone hurt such a beautiful, defenseless child? A soft knock came at the door. "Come in," William said quietly. Clara entered, carrying a cup of tea. "I thought you might need this, sir." "Thank you, Clara." William took the tea with grateful hands. "I've been watching the security footage." Clara's eyes filled with tears. "It was horrible, sir. Every day I tried to help when I could, but Miss Sarah threatened me. She said she'd have me thrown in jail if I told you. She said she'd make sure I never worked again." The old woman's voice broke. "I'm so sorry, Mr. William. I should have found a way to contact you. I should have." "Clara, stop." William stood up and placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You were scared. I understand. And you did help Mary. I saw that in the videos. You snuck her food. You tried to protect her. Thank you for that. What will you do now, sir? I'm going to make sure Sarah and Lucas pay for what they've done. Both of them. William's voice was steel. But first I need to understand their plan. Clara, you said you heard them talking about papers in my office. Do you know what papers? I'm not sure, sir, but I know Mr. Lucas has been going through your files when you're away. He has keys to everything. And last week I saw Miss Sarah photocopying documents from your safe. My safe? William's eyes widened. How did she get into my safe? I don't know, sir. But I saw her coming out of your office with a stack of papers, looking very pleased with herself. William immediately went to his office safe, a large steel box hidden behind a painting on the wall. He entered the code and pulled it open. His heart sank. Papers were missing. Important papers. The most important papers in his entire business. The ownership documents for his company, the contracts with his biggest investors, his will, stock certificates. All of it gone. They're planning to steal my company. William whispered the truth crashing down on him like a wave. That's what this is about. Sarah was never interested in being my wife. She was just keeping me distracted while Lucas positioned himself to take over. Suddenly, everything made sense. Over the past few months, William had noticed strange things at work. Important meetings he wasn't invited to. Investors who suddenly seemed cold toward him. Board members who questioned his decisions. He had thought it was just normal business friction, but it wasn't. It was Lucas poisoning everyone against him, slowly, carefully turning his own company against him. And while William was distracted by his failing marriage and constant business trips, they had been stealing everything. His documents, his reputation, and worst of all, they had been torturing his daughter to keep her silent and scared. The doorbell rang downstairs. William looked at his watch. 8:30 p.m. That would be Richard Campbell, his lawyer. Clara, stay with Mary, William instructed. Don't let anyone in this room except me. Lock the door after I leave. Yes, sir. William went downstairs and opened the front door. Richard Campbell stood there, a tall, slim man in his 50s with sharp eyes and silver hair carrying a briefcase. William. What's the emergency? Richard asked as he stepped inside. Come to the living room. I have a lot to show you. For the next hour, William showed Richard everything. The security footage, the medical report from Dr. Stevens, photos of Mary's bruises, and he explained about the missing documents from his safe. Richard's expression grew darker with each piece of evidence. This is serious, William. Very serious. We're not just talking about divorce and child abuse. This is corporate espionage, theft, fraud, and conspiracy. If we can prove Lucas was involved, we're looking at criminal charges that could put both of them in prison for decades. Good, William said, coldly. That's exactly what I want. But we need to be careful, Richard warned. If Lucas has those ownership documents, he might try to use them to claim he has rights to your company. We need to act fast before he can file anything with the courts. And we need to secure your business accounts, your passwords, everything. What do I do? First, we file an emergency restraining order against Sarah. She won't be allowed within 500 feet of you or Mary. Second, we report her to the police for child abuse. The medical evidence is overwhelming. Third, we freeze all your joint accounts with Sarah so she can't steal any money. And fourth, Richard pulled out some papers from his briefcase. We call an emergency board meeting for Monday morning. We expose Lucas in front of everyone. We show them what he's done, and we take back control of your company before he can make his move. Monday is 3 days away, William said. What if Lucas tries something before then? He won't, Richard said confidently. Lucas is smart. He thinks he has time. He thinks you don't know about his plan. We have the element of surprise. But William, we need one more piece of evidence. We need to prove Lucas was working with Sarah to harm Mary and steal from your company. Do you have anything that connects them? William thought for a moment. Then he remembered. Clara said she heard them on the phone and she saw them meeting in my office. Maybe there's footage of that too. William pulled out his laptop again and searched through the security files. He went to the home office camera from last week. There it was. Lucas and Sarah sitting in William's own office surrounded by papers. The audio was clear. William turned up the volume and they listened. "Are you sure William won't find out?" That was Sarah's voice. "He's too busy flying around the world to notice anything." Lucas replied with a laugh. "By the time he figures it out, the board will have already voted me in as CEO. All I need is these documents and a few more signatures from the investors I've been bribing." "What about the little brat Mary keeps looking at me like she wants to tell him something?" "Then make sure she's too scared to talk," Lucas said coldly. "I don't care what you have to do. Hit her. Starve her, lock her up, whatever it takes. We're too close to let a 9-year-old kid ruin everything." "Oh, I'm already handling that," Sarah said with a cruel smile. "She barely eats anymore. She's terrified of me. Even if William came home, she'd be too scared to say anything." "Perfect. And speaking of William," Lucas held up a document. "This is his will. If anything were to happen to him, an accident, maybe a car crash, who knows, I'm named as the guardian of his daughter and executive of his estate. Everything becomes mine." Sarah's eyes gleamed. "Are you saying what I think you're saying? I'm saying that once we have full control, William becomes unnecessary." Richard Campbell's face went pale. "William? They were planning to kill you." William's blood ran cold. His own brother, his own flesh and blood. Lucas wasn't just trying to steal his company. He was planning to murder him and take everything, including Mary. "That's it," William said, his voice shaking with controlled rage. "That's all the evidence we need. Call the police now." "We need to be strategic," Richard cautioned. "If we call the police now, they'll arrest Sarah for child abuse." "Yes, but Lucas could destroy evidence before we can get to him. We need to catch them both at the same time." "How?" Richard thought for a moment, then smiled. "We set a trap. We make Lucas think his plan is working. We invite him here tomorrow. Tell him you're leaving town again for an emergency business trip. When he comes over to continue his scheme with Sarah, we'll have the police waiting." William nodded slowly, and we record everything. Get him to confess on camera. "Exactly." Suddenly they heard shouting from upstairs, Sarah's voice angry and desperate. "Lucas, where are you?" "You said you'd be here an hour ago." William and Richard exchanged glances. Lucas was on his way, but now William was ready for him. William stood up and walked to the bottom of the stairs. "Sarah," he called up. "Come down here now." "I'm busy," she shouted back. "I said now." There was a pause, then footsteps. Sarah appeared at the top of the stairs, her face red with anger. But when she saw Richard Campbell standing in the living room with his briefcase, her expression changed to fear. "What's going on?" she asked nervously. "Come down here and have a seat," William said calmly. "We need to talk." Sarah slowly descended the stairs, her eyes darting between William and the lawyer. She sat on the edge of the couch, her hands gripping her knees. Richard pulled out a folder and opened it. "Mrs. Jackson, I'm Richard Campbell, Mr. Jackson's attorney. I'm here to inform you that we will be filing for immediate divorce along with a restraining order and criminal charges for child abuse." Sarah's face went white. You can't prove anything." "Actually, we can." Richard pulled out printed photos, screenshots from the security footage images of Sarah hitting Mary, dragging her by the hair, locking her in closets, dumping food on her. Sarah stared at the photos, her mouth opening and closing like a fish. "We also have medical reports documenting Mary's injuries." Richard continued, "Testimony from witnesses," and he pulled out one more document. "Audio and video evidence of you conspiring with Lucas Jackson to commit corporate fraud and discussing plans to harm Mary." Sarah's hands started shaking. Lucas made me do it. He said if I didn't help him, he'd." "So you admit you were working with Lucas," Richard said smoothly. Sarah realized her mistake too late. She had just confessed. "I want a lawyer," she said quickly. "That's your right," Richard replied. "But know this, the police are on their way. You're going to be arrested tonight. The only question is whether you cooperate and possibly reduce your sentence or whether you fight this and spend the next 20 years in prison." Sarah burst into tears, but William felt no sympathy. These weren't real tears. They were the same fake tears she had used to manipulate him for months. "Where are the documents you stole from my safe?" William demanded. I don't have them," Sarah sobbed. "Lucas took them. He has everything. Where is Lucas now? He's at his apartment. He was supposed to come here, but he got scared when I told him you came home early." William pulled out his phone and called someone. "Tom, it's William Jackson. I need you to go to my brother Lucas's apartment right now. Don't let him leave. If he tries to run, stop him. I'll explain everything when the police arrive." 20 minutes later, 2 police cars pulled up in front of the mansion, their red and blue lights flashing silently in the darkness. William had asked them not to use sirens. He didn't want to wake Mary or alert the neighbors. 2 officers stepped out, a tall man named Officer James Brown and a woman with kind eyes named Officer Linda Martinez. William met them at the door and quickly explained everything. He showed them the security footage, the medical reports, and the photos of Mary's injuries. The officers' faces grew harder with each piece of evidence. "Where is your daughter now?" Officer Martinez asked gently. "Sleeping upstairs. She's been through so much. I don't want her to wake up and be scared by police uniforms." "We understand," Officer Martinez said. "We'll need to speak with her eventually, but it can wait until morning when she's rested. For now, we need to talk to Mrs. Jackson." Sarah was still sitting on the couch in the living room, her face buried in her hands. When she saw the police officers, she started crying harder. "Officers, please," she sobbed. "This is all a misunderstanding. I love that little girl. I was only trying to discipline her. William is overreacting because Ma'am Officer Brown cut her off firmly. We've seen the video evidence. We've seen the medical reports. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in court." As Officer Brown read Sarah her rights, Officer Martinez took photos of the living room in William's office for evidence. Sarah Clinton Jackson. Officer Brown said, formally pulling out handcuffs. "You are under arrest for child abuse assault and endangering the welfare of a minor. Please stand up and put your hands behind your back." "No," Sarah screamed, jumping to her feet. "You can't do this. I'm innocent. William is lying. That brat is lying. Lucas will." She stopped herself, but it was too late. "Lucas." Officer Martinez looked up. "Lucas Jackson, your brother-in-law. What does he have to do with this?" Sarah's face went pale as she realized she had just given away Lucas's involvement. Richard Campbell stepped forward with another folder. "Officers, we have evidence that Lucas Jackson has been conspiring with Mrs. Jackson to commit corporate fraud and possibly worse. We believe he has stolen important documents and may be planning to flee." Officer Brown immediately radioed to the station. "This is Unit 12. We need backup sent to." He looked at William. 435 Riverside Apartment, Unit 1804. William said, "That's my brother's address." "Copy that. Send units to 435 Riverside, Unit 1804. Suspect may attempt to flee. Consider him dangerous." Sarah was handcuffed and led toward the police car. As she passed William, she hissed at him. "You'll regret this. Lucas has friends in high places. Judges, politicians, businessmen. They'll destroy you." William looked at her coldly. "The only thing I regret is ever trusting you. You hurt my daughter. There's nothing worse you could have done." As the police car drove away with Sarah in the back seat, William felt a small sense of relief. At least Mary would be safe from her now, but Lucas was still out there. At 435 Riverside Apartment, Lucas Jackson was frantically packing a suitcase. His luxury apartment was in chaos. Papers scattered everywhere, clothes thrown across the bed, important documents stacked on the dining table. He had gotten Sarah's panicked text message an hour ago. "William knows everything. Get out now." Lucas was a handsome man in his late 30s, tall and charming, with the same dark eyes as William. But where William's eyes showed kindness and strength, Lucas's eyes held only greed and envy. All his life Lucas had lived in his older brother's shadow. William was the successful one, the smart one, the one their parents loved most. William had inherited their father's business skills and built a fortune. Meanwhile, Lucas had wasted his youth partying and making bad investments. When William had generously given him a job at the company 5 years ago, Lucas should have been grateful. But instead, jealousy had eaten him alive. Why should William have everything? Why should William be rich and respected while Lucas was just William's younger brother? So Lucas had started planning. For 2 years, he had been carefully positioning himself, making connections, bribing board members, stealing secrets. And then he had found Sarah, a woman as ambitious and heartless as himself. Together they had crafted the perfect plan. Sarah would marry William and keep him distracted while Lucas poisoned the company against him. They would steal his ownership documents, forge signatures, and take over the company. And if William got in the way, well, accidents happened. But now everything was falling apart. Lucas grabbed the stolen documents from his safe, William's ownership papers, contracts, stock certificates. These were his insurance policy. With these, he could still fight for control of the company. He stuffed them into his briefcase. His phone rang. A number he didn't recognize. "Hello," he answered cautiously. "Lucas Jackson." A professional voice spoke. "Who is this?" "This is Tom Reynolds from Jackson Security Services. I'm outside your building right now." "Mr. William Jackson has requested that you remain in your apartment until the police arrive." Lucas's blood ran cold. "What? What are you talking about? Sarah has been arrested. The police are on their way to you as well. I suggest you don't try to run." Lucas hung up and rushed to his window. Down below, he could see a black SUV parked right in front of the building entrance. A large man in a security uniform stood beside it, arms crossed, watching the door. "No. Oh, no." Lucas grabbed his briefcase and ran for the door. He couldn't use the front entrance. Security was there, but maybe the back stairs, the service exit. He ran down the back stairwell, his footsteps echoing. 10 floors, 9 floors, 8 floors. At the ground floor, he pushed open the exit door and found himself face to face with 2 police officers. "Lucas Jackson," one officer asked. Lucas tried to run, but the officers were too fast. They grabbed him and pushed him against the wall. "Lucas Jackson, you're under arrest for corporate fraud, conspiracy to commit theft, and conspiracy to harm a minor." "You can't prove anything," Lucas shouted. "I'm a respected businessman. I know the mayor. I know judges. You'll be sorry for this." But as the handcuffs clicked around his wrists, Lucas knew it was over. His perfect plan had failed. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the windows of William's bedroom. Mary stirred slowly, her eyes opening. For a moment, she was confused. This wasn't her room. Where was she? Then she remembered. Daddy had come home. Daddy had saved her. She was in his bed, safe and protected. Mary sat up carefully, her body still sore from all the bruises. But the fear she had carried for 6 weeks was gone. Sarah was gone. She was safe. The bedroom door opened and William entered carrying a breakfast tray. When he saw Mary awake, his face lit up with the biggest smile she had seen in months. "Good morning, sweetheart," he said warmly. "How did you sleep?" "Good, Daddy," Mary said softly. Then, in a smaller voice, Is she really gone?" William set the tray down and sat beside Mary on the bed. He took her small hands and his, "Yes, baby. Sarah is gone. She's been arrested. She can never hurt you again. I promise." Tears of relief filled Mary's eyes. "Really? You promise, I promise on everything I love. You're safe now." William gently wiped her tears away. And guess what? You don't have to go to school today. We're going to spend the whole day together, just you and me. We can do whatever you want. Anything. Mary's eyes widened with hope. Anything. Can we go to the park like we used to before Mommy died? William's heart squeezed. Of course we can. But first you need to eat breakfast. Dr. Stevens said you need to eat small meals throughout the day to get your strength back. On the tray was scrambled eggs toast with butter-fresh orange juice and cut-up strawberries, all of Mary's favorite foods. Mary ate slowly, savoring every bite. William sat with her the whole time, telling her stories and making her laugh. It felt like old times before everything had gone wrong. After breakfast, Clara came in to help Mary get dressed in comfortable clothes. As Clara gently brushed Mary's hair, the little girl asked quietly, "Miss Clara, were you scared of her too?" Clara paused, then nodded. "Yes, child, I was. She threatened me, said terrible things, but I should have been braver. I should have protected you better." "It's okay, Miss Clara," Mary said softly. "Daddy says we're all safe now." "That's right, baby." Clara kissed the top of Mary's head. "Your daddy is a good man. He's going to make everything right." That afternoon, William took Mary to the park just as he had promised. They walked hand in hand through the green grass past families having picnics and children playing on swings. Mary was quiet at first, staying close to William's side, but slowly, with gentle encouragement, she started to relax. They fed the ducks at the pond. They got ice cream from a vendor. William pushed Mary on the swings, and for the first time in 6 weeks she laughed. A real genuine laugh that made William's heart soar. As they sat on a bench eating ice cream, Mary asked, "Daddy, what about Uncle Lucas?" William had been dreading this question. How did you tell a 9-year-old that her uncle had betrayed them? "Uncle Lucas made some very bad choices," William said carefully. "He hurt people and did things that were wrong, so he has to face consequences just like Sarah." "Was he helping her hurt me?" Mary asked, her voice small. William couldn't lie to her. "Yes, sweetheart, he was. I'm so sorry." Mary was quiet for a moment, licking her ice cream. Then she said, "I knew something was wrong. Uncle Lucas used to be nice, but then he changed. He would look at me in a mean way, and once I heard him tell Sarah that I was in the way." William pulled Mary close. "You were never in the way. You are the most important person in my whole life, and anyone who hurt you or tried to hurt you will pay for it. I promise you that. I believe you, Daddy," Mary whispered. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in beautiful shades of orange and pink, William and Mary walked home together. For the first time in 6 weeks, Mary felt like a normal little girl again. No fear, no hunger, no pain, just love and safety. But William knew this was only the beginning. Sarah and Lucas were arrested, yes, but there was still so much to do. He needed to take back control of his company. He needed to expose Lucas's conspiracy to the board of directors. He needed to find Mary, the best therapist, to help her heal from the trauma. And most importantly, he needed to be the father Mary deserved, present, protective, and loving. That evening, after Mary was asleep, William sat in his office with Richard Campbell planning their next moves. "The arraignment is scheduled for Monday," Richard explained. "Both Sarah and Lucas will appear before a judge. With the evidence we have, bail will likely be denied. They're both flight risks." "Good," William said. "What about the company I've called an emergency board meeting for Tuesday morning? We'll present all the evidence of Lucas's corporate espionage and fraud. The stolen documents have been recovered from his apartment. The police found them in his briefcase when they arrested him. Will the board believe us? They'll have to. We have emails, recorded conversations, forged documents with Lucas's fingerprints and testimony from employees he tried to bribe. The evidence is overwhelming." Richard paused. But, William, there's something else you should know. What some of the board members were involved. Lucas bribed 3 of them, David Chin, Patricia Moore, and James Sullivan. They knew what he was doing and helped him. We need to decide whether to press charges against them too, or offer them immunity in exchange for testimony against Lucas. William's jaw clenched. These people betrayed me. They betrayed the company my father built. I know, but if they testify, it makes our case against Lucas even stronger. He goes to prison for longer. It's your call. William thought about Mary sleeping peacefully upstairs. He thought about how Lucas had told Sarah to hurt his daughter to keep her scared and silent. He thought about how Lucas had planned to kill him. No immunity, William said firmly. Everyone who participated in this pace. I don't care how long it takes or how much it costs. Justice has to be served. Richard nodded. Then we'll prosecute them all. As Richard gathered his papers to leave, he said, William, there's one more thing. The media is going to find out about this. The arrest of your wife and brother for abuse and corporate fraud. It's going to be a huge story. You need to be prepared for reporters, photographers, people digging into your private life. William's first thought was of Mary. She's been through enough. I won't let the media turn her trauma into entertainment. We can file for a gag order to protect her identity. No photos, no names. She's a minor, so the court will likely grant it. Do it, whatever it takes to protect her. After Richard left, William went upstairs to check on Mary one more time. She was sleeping peacefully, her little teddy bear clutched in her arms. Her face looked more relaxed than it had in weeks. William knelt beside the bed and whispered, I'm so sorry, baby girl. I'm sorry I wasn't there to protect you, but I'm here now, and I will never let anyone hurt you again. That's my promise to you. He kissed her forehead gently and left the room, leaving the door slightly open so he could hear if she needed him. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, the arrangement, the media, the battle for his company. But tonight, Mary was safe, and that was all that mattered. Monday morning arrived bright and clear. William woke up early, his mind already racing with thoughts of the arraignment scheduled for 10:00 a.m. But first, he needed to take care of something important. Mary needed to return to school eventually, and before that happened, William wanted to talk to her teacher. He needed to understand what Mary had been going through at school and whether anyone there had noticed the abuse. After making sure Mary was comfortable at home with Clara, he had hired a private security guard to watch the house just in case William drove to Riverside Elementary School. The school was a beautiful brick building with colorful murals painted on the walls and a playground full of laughing children. William walked through the front doors and headed to the main office. I'm here to see Mrs. Margaret Thompson, William told the secretary. She's my daughter, Mary Jackson's teacher. The secretary's face changed when she heard Mary's name. Oh, Mr. Jackson. Yes, of course. Mrs. Thompson has been very worried about Mary. Let me call her down. A few minutes later, a kind-looking woman in her 50s appeared. She had gentle brown eyes, graying hair pulled back in a bun, and a warm smile. But when she saw William, her smile faded to concern. Mr. Jackson, she said, extending her hand. I'm Margaret Thompson, Mary's teacher. Could we talk in private? They went to an empty classroom. Mrs. Thompson closed the door and gestured for William to sit at one of the small desks. She pulled up a chair across from him. Mr. Jackson, I'm so glad you're here. She began, her voice thick with emotion. I've been trying to reach you for weeks. I've called your office, sent emails, even tried to contact you through your assistant, but I never got through. William's stomach dropped. I never received any messages from you. What? What did you need to tell me? Mrs. Thompson pulled out a folder from her desk drawer. Mary has been in my class since September. At the beginning of the year, she was a bright, happy little girl. She participated in class, played with other children, always had a smile. But starting about 6 weeks ago, everything changed. She opened the folder and showed William Paper's schoolwork with Mary's name on it, but the handwriting was shaky and messy, nothing like the neat writing from earlier in the year. Her grades dropped dramatically. Mrs. Thompson continued. She stopped participating. She would fall asleep in class. She stopped playing with friends during recess. She would just sit alone in the corner, staring at nothing. William's heart ached as he listened. "And then I started noticing physical signs," Mrs. Thompson said quietly. She pulled out pictures she had taken with her phone. They showed Mary at school. In one photo, there were bruises visible on her arms. In another, a scratch on her neck. In another, Mary was so thin her uniform hung loosely on her small frame. "I took these pictures as evidence," Mrs. Thompson explained, "because I knew something terrible was happening. So I called your office multiple times. I left detailed messages with your assistant explaining that I was concerned about Mary's welfare and needed to speak with you urgently." "What did my assistant say?" William asked, though he already suspected the answer. "She said you were traveling and couldn't be disturbed. She said she would pass on my messages, but that you were very busy. I called 6 times over 3 weeks, Mr. Jackson. 6 times, and you never called back." William closed his eyes in pain. "My assistant's name is Jennifer Cole. She's worked for me for 3 years. I trusted her completely. I'm sorry to tell you this, but I think someone was blocking my calls from reaching you, because it wasn't just me. I also reported my concerns to Child Protective Services 2 weeks ago. They said they would investigate, but nothing ever happened." "Nothing." William looked up sharply. "Nothing. No social worker ever came to check on Mary, no follow-up calls. It was like my report disappeared into thin air." Mrs. Thompson leaned forward, her eyes intense. "Mr. Jackson, I think someone with power was making sure no one could reach you or help Mary." William's mind raced. Lucas had to be Lucas. As a senior executive in William's company, Lucas had access to his schedule, his assistant, his communications. Lucas could have easily told Jennifer to block calls from Mary's school, and Lucas had wealthy, powerful friends, the kind who could make a CPS report disappear. "Did Mary ever tell you what was happening at home?" William asked. Mrs. Thompson nodded sadly. "She tried to once about 3 weeks ago. She stayed after class and started to tell me that her stepmother was hurting her, but before she could say much, she got scared and ran away. The next day, she came to school with a bruise on her face and wouldn't speak to me at all. She looked terrified. I think someone found out she had tried to talk." William remembered the security footage. Sarah threatening Mary, telling her that if she told anyone, she would regret it. "I have something to show you," William said. He pulled out his phone and showed Mrs. Thompson some of the security footage, the parts that weren't too violent to watch. He explained everything that had happened. Sarah's abuse, Lucas's conspiracy, the arrests. Mrs. Thompson watched with tears streaming down her face. That poor child. I knew something was wrong. I knew it, but I couldn't get anyone to listen. I felt so helpless. "You did everything right," William assured her. "You tried to help. You documented everything. You called for help. It's not your fault that Lucas blocked your attempts." "How is Mary now?" Mrs. Thompson asked. "She's safe. She's home with a trusted caregiver and a security guard. She's eating properly again, sleeping better, but she's still scared, still healing. Will she come back to school?" "Eventually, yes, but not for a few weeks. She needs time to recover. And when she does come back, I want to make sure the school understands what she's been through. She'll need patience, understanding, and possibly extra support." Mrs. Thompson nodded firmly. "She'll have all of that, and more. I'll personally make sure every teacher and staff member knows to be gentle with her. And Mr. Jackson," she hesitated, "I'd like to testify. Testify in court against Sarah and Lucas. I have photographs, notes, documentation of Mary's decline. I have records of every call I made trying to reach you. If it helps put those monsters in prison, I want to help." William felt a surge of gratitude. "Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. My lawyer will be in touch. Your testimony could be very important." They stood up, and Mrs. Thompson walked William to the door. As they said goodbye, she added, "Tell Mary that her whole class misses her. We made her get well cards. I'll bring them by your house this week if that's okay." "She would love that," William said with a smile. As William drove away from the school, he called Richard Campbell. "Richard, I just met with Mary's teacher. She tried to report the abuse weeks ago, but someone blocked her calls from reaching me. I think it was Lucas, working through my assistant Jennifer. We need to investigate Jennifer immediately. Richard said if she was helping Lucas, she's part of the conspiracy. Also, Mrs. Thompson wants to testify. She has photos and documentation proving Mary's decline." "Excellent. That strengthens our case even more. Her testimony will show that Mary's suffering was visible to others, not just hidden at home." At 10:00 a.m., William sat in the courthouse waiting for the arraignment to begin. Richard sat beside him along with 2 other lawyers from Richard's firm. The courtroom was cold and formal, with wooden benches and a high judge's bench at the front. Sarah was brought in first, wearing an orange jail uniform, her hands cuffed in front of her. Her hair was messy, her makeup gone, her face pale. She looked nothing like the polished, glamorous woman who had fooled William for so long. When she saw William in the courtroom, her eyes filled with hate. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s named Judge Helen Martinez, reviewed the charges. "Sarah Clinton Jackson, you are charged with multiple counts of child abuse assault on a minor, reckless endangerment and conspiracy. How do you plead?" Sarah's public defender, a tired, ill-looking young man, stood up. "Not guilty, Your Honor. The prosecution requests that bail be denied." Richard Campbell stood and announced, "Mrs. Jackson is a flight risk. She has no children of her own, no strong ties to the community, and has already expressed intent to flee the jurisdiction." "Your Honor, my client has no criminal record," the public defender began. "Your client is accused of systematically abusing a 9-year-old child for 6 weeks. Judge Martinez cut him off sharply. "I've reviewed the evidence, submitted the medical reports, the photographs, the video footage. This is one of the most disturbing cases I've seen in 20 years on the bench." She banged her gavel. "Bail is denied. Mrs. Jackson will remain in custody until trial." Sarah's face crumpled. "No, please. I can't stay in jail. I didn't mean take her back to holding the judge ordered." Guards led Sarah away, still protesting. Next, Lucas was brought in. Unlike Sarah, Lucas looked calm and confident. He wore an expensive suit. His lawyer must have arranged for him to change out of the jail uniform. His hair was perfectly styled. He smiled slightly as if this was all just a minor inconvenience. Lucas's lawyer was Marcus Steele, a famous defense attorney known for getting wealthy criminals off with light sentences. He wore a $3,000 suit and had slicked back gray hair. "Your Honor," Marcus Steele said smoothly, "my client is a respected businessman with deep roots in this community. He strongly denies all charges and maintains his innocence. We request reasonable bail so Mr. Jackson can continue his important work while preparing his defense." Judge Martinez looked at Lucas coldly. "Mr. Jackson, you are charged with corporate fraud theft, conspiracy to commit harm to a minor, and conspiracy to commit murder. The evidence suggests you plan to kill your own brother. Those charges are absurd." Lucas finally spoke, his voice indignant. "I would never hurt William. He's my brother. This is all a misunderstanding." "Be quiet," Judge Martinez snapped. "Mr. Campbell, what is the prosecution's position on bail?" Richard stood. "Your Honor, Lucas Jackson has resources and connections all over the world. He has already attempted to flee once. He was arrested while trying to escape with stolen corporate documents. He poses an extreme flight risk and a continued threat to Mr. William Jackson and his daughter. We request bail be denied." Marcus Steele jumped up. "Your Honor, my client was not fleeing. He was caught running down a back stairway with a suitcase full of stolen documents." Richard interrupted. The police report is clear. Judge Martinez reviewed her papers. Mr. Lucas Jackson, given the severity of the charges, your attempt to flee, and the evidence of conspiracy bail is denied. You will remain in custody until trial. Lucas's confident smile disappeared. What? You can't do this. I have rights. You have the right to remain silent, Judge Martinez said coldly. I suggest you exercise it. Take him away. As guards led Lucas out, he locked eyes with William. The hatred in Lucas's face was terrifying, cold, pure, and murderous. William didn't flinch. He stared right back, letting Lucas know that he wasn't afraid anymore. When both prisoners were gone, Judge Martinez looked at William. Mr. Jackson, I want you to know that I take crimes against children very seriously. I've reviewed all the evidence in this case, and I will personally ensure that justice is served. Your daughter deserves that. Thank you, Your Honor. William said, his voice thick with emotion. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed William and Richard. Cameras flashed. Microphones were shoved in their faces. Mr. Jackson, is it true? Your wife abused your daughter. Mr. Jackson, did your brother really try to steal your company? Mr. Jackson, how is your daughter doing? Richard stepped in front of William. My client will not be making any statements at this time. However, I want to make clear that Mr. Jackson's 9-year-old daughter is the victim in this case, and her privacy must be protected. Any media outlet that publishes her photograph or full name will be sued for violating a minor's rights. Thank you. They pushed through the crowd and got into William's car. As they drove away, William let out a long breath. That went better than I expected, Richard said. Both denied bail. That's a huge win. What happens next tomorrow is the board meeting. We expose Lucas's corporate crimes to the board of directors. Then, in about 6 weeks, there will be a preliminary hearing where a judge decides if there's enough evidence for a trial. With everything we have, it will definitely go to trial. And given the evidence, I'd say we're looking at 20 to 30 years for both of them. William nodded, satisfied. But there was still one thing bothering him. Richard, what about my assistant, Jennifer? If she helped Lucas block calls from Mary's school, she's part of this. I've already started investigating her. We're pulling her phone records, emails, and financial statements. If Lucas paid her to help him, we'll find the evidence. Tuesday morning arrived with heavy, gray clouds covering the sky. William woke up early, his stomach tight with nerves. Today was the day he would face his company's board of directors and exposed Lucas's betrayal. He checked on Mary, who was still sleeping peacefully, her teddy bear tucked under her chin. Clara sat in a chair beside the bed, knitting quietly, keeping watch. I have to go to an important meeting, William whispered to Clara. I should be back by afternoon. Don't worry, sir, Clara whispered back. I'll take good care of her. William kissed Mary's forehead gently, then left for his company headquarters. The Jackson Industries building was a massive glass tower in the heart of downtown, 40 stories of steel and ambition. William had built this company from his father's small construction business into a billion-dollar corporation, and now his own brother had tried to steal it all. William rode the elevator to the top floor where the executive boardroom waited. Richard Campbell was already there, setting up a laptop and projector. Several boxes of evidence sat on a side table. Are you ready? Richard asked. William straightened his tie and nodded. Let's do this. The board members began arriving at 9:00 a.m. sharp. There were 12 of them, powerful men and women who controlled the company's decisions. Some were old friends of William's father. Others were investors who had helped the company grow, and 3 of them William now knew were traitors. David Chin, a stern-looking man in his 50s, entered and took his seat without making eye contact with William. Patricia Moore, an elegant woman with sharp features, sat down and immediately started whispering to David. James Sullivan, a heavy-set man with a loud voice, came in last, looking nervous and sweaty. These were the 3 Lucas had bribed. William felt anger burn in his chest, but he kept his face calm and professional. The other board members greeted William warmly. They had no idea what this emergency meeting was about. Thank you all for coming on such short notice. William began standing at the head of the long table. I've called this meeting because I've discovered something that affects the future of this company, something very serious. What's this about William? Asked Robert Martinez, one of his father's oldest friends. Your assistant said it was urgent but wouldn't give details. It's about betrayal, William said simply. Corporate espionage, fraud, and conspiracy. The room fell silent. Everyone stared at William for the past 6 months. William continued. Someone in this company has been stealing from us, leaking secrets to our competitors, forging documents, bribing board members, and planning to take over as CEO. That's a serious accusation, Patricia Moore said, her voice icy. Do you have proof I do? William nodded to Richard, who started the projector. The first image appeared on the screen, a bank statement showing a transfer of $50,000 from one of Lucas's personal accounts to David Chen's account. David's face went pale. This transfer was made 3 months ago, Richard explained, standing up. The memo line says consulting fee, but Mr. Chin has never done any consulting work for Lucas Jackson. This was a bribe. That's ridiculous. David jumped to his feet. That money was for voting against William's expansion project. Richard interrupted. The project that would have strengthened the company but weakened Lucas's position. Yes, we know. More images appeared. Emails, text messages, recorded phone calls, all showing Lucas bribing David, Patricia, and James to vote against William's proposals and support Lucas's ideas instead. The other board members looked shocked and angry. There's more, William said grimly. Lucas wasn't just trying to control the board, he was stealing from the company. Richard showed bank records proving that Lucas had been siphoning money from company accounts. Small amounts at first, then larger and larger sums. Over 2 years, he had stolen almost $3 million. He also sold confidential information to our competitor, Morrison Construction. Richard continued. Here are the emails proving it. The evidence was overwhelming. Emails from Lucas to Morrison Construction, selling them the company's secret building plans and client lists. In exchange, Morrison had paid Lucas $200,000 under the table. James Sullivan suddenly stood up, his face red. I want immunity. I'll tell you everything. Lucas approached me 8 months ago. He said William was running the company into the ground and that we needed new leadership. He offered me money to vote his way. I didn't know he was stealing. Sit down, James, Patricia Moore hissed. No. James shook his head. I'm not going to prison for Lucas. He lied to all of us. He said this was about saving the company, but really he just wanted power. William looked at James with disgust. You sold out the company my father built. You betrayed everything we stand for money. I'm sorry, William, James said weakly. I made a terrible mistake. Sorry isn't enough, William said coldly. He turned to the rest of the board. These 3, David Chin, Patricia Moore, and James Sullivan, accepted bribes from Lucas Jackson to vote against the company's interests. They are no longer fit to serve on this board. This is outrageous. Patricia stood up, her face twisted with anger. You can't just remove us. We have contracts. We have rights. You have no rights after committing fraud, Richard said firmly. Your contracts have termination clauses for illegal activity. You're fired. Security will escort you out. As if on cue, 3 security guards entered the boardroom. This isn't over, Patricia screamed as she was led away. I'll sue. I'll destroy you. But her threats were empty, and everyone knew it. After the 3 traitors were removed, the remaining board members sat in stunned silence. Finally, Robert Martinez spoke. William, I had no idea. Lucas seemed so trustworthy. He was your brother. I trusted him too, William said quietly. That's what makes this betrayal so painful. But there's something else you all need to know. Something even worse than corporate fraud. William took a deep breath. This was the hardest part. Lucas didn't just want to steal the company. He wanted to destroy me completely. And to do that, he recruited my wife Sarah to help him. He nodded to Richard, who clicked to the next slide. The boardroom screen now showed a photo of Mary. The photo from Dr. Stevens' medical report showing her bruised arms and thin frame. Several board members gasped. "This is my daughter Mary," William said, his voice shaking with controlled emotion. "She's 9 years old. For the past 6 weeks while I was traveling on business, my wife Sarah systematically abused her. She starved her, beat her, terrorized her, and Lucas knew about it. In fact, he encouraged it." Richard played the audio recording, the one from William's home office where Lucas and Sarah discussed keeping Mary too scared to talk and making sure she was handled. The boardroom was completely silent. Several people had tears in their eyes. "Why would Lucas do this?" asked Jennifer Park, a grandmother who had known Mary since she was born. "What did that poor child ever do to him?" Mary did nothing, William said. But Lucas saw her as an obstacle. If I died and Lucas was planning to arrange an accident for me, Lucas would become Mary's legal guardian and control her inheritance. With me dead Sarah as his accomplice and Mary too traumatized to speak up, Lucas would have everything. My company, my money, my home, everything. "My God," Robert whispered. "Your own brother planned to kill you." "Yes." William pulled out the final piece of evidence, the recording where Lucas and Sarah discussed making William unnecessary. As the recording played, showing Lucas casually discussing William's potential death. The board members looked horrified. When it finished, Robert Martinez stood up, his face red with fury. "That monster. That absolute monster. William, I am so sorry. If we had known, if any of us had suspected, you couldn't have known," William said. Lucas was careful. He manipulated everyone. He had me flying all over the world so I couldn't see what was happening in my own home. He blocked calls from my daughter's teacher trying to warn me. He paid my assistant to keep information from reaching me. He was very, very clever. "Where is Lucas now?" asked another board member. "In jail," Richard answered. Both Lucas and Sarah were arrested. They've been denied bail and are awaiting trial. Based on the evidence, they're each looking at 25 to 30 years in prison. "Good," Robert said firmly. "They deserve every year of it." William looked around the table at the remaining board members, the ones who had stayed loyal, who had never suspected Lucas's betrayal. "I'm sorry I wasn't here to protect this company," William said. "I was so focused on expanding, on growing, on making deals that I stopped paying attention to what mattered most. My daughter, my company, my responsibilities. That changes now." "What do you mean?" Jennifer Park asked. "I mean, I'm restructuring my priorities. From now on, my daughter comes first. Always. I'll still run this company, but I won't be traveling constantly. I'll be present. I'll be here." William paused. "And I'm implementing new oversight systems so that what Lucas did can never happen again. Every executive's finances will be audited quarterly. Every business decision will require multiple approvals. And we're creating an ethics committee to investigate any suspicious activity." The board members nodded in agreement. "We support you, William," Robert said. "Whatever you need. This company is yours, and we're behind you 100%. "Thank you," William said sincerely. "That means everything to me." After the board meeting ended, several members came up to William personally to express their support and ask about Mary. "How is she doing?" Jennifer Park asked, her eyes wet with tears. "That poor little angel. She's healing," William said slowly. "She's seeing a therapist, eating properly again, and most importantly, she feels safe. Please tell her that Aunt Jennifer sends her love." Jennifer said she had always brought Mary birthday presents and Christmas gifts, and if there's anything I can do to help, anything at all, please let me know. Actually, there is something. William said Mary loves art. Her therapist suggested art therapy might help her express her feelings. Do you still have that connection to the children's art studio downtown? I'll make a call today, Jennifer promised. Mary will have unlimited sessions free of charge. As William drove home that afternoon, he felt a weight lift from his shoulders. The board meeting had gone perfectly. Lucas's crimes were exposed. The company was secure. Justice was moving forward. But there was still one loose end. William pulled over and called his head of security. "Tom, what did you find out about Jennifer Cole?" "We've got her, sir," Tom said grimly. "Phone records show she received 17 calls from Lucas over the past 6 months, all during work hours when you were traveling. She also received 3 wire transfers totaling $30,000 from one of Lucas's shell companies. So she was definitely helping him." "Yes, sir." She blocked calls from Mary's school, deleted emails from concerned parties, and kept your calendar full so you'd always be traveling. She was basically Lucas's inside agent. William's grip tightened on the steering wheel. Jennifer had worked for him for 3 years. He had trusted her with his schedule, his communications, his private information, and she had sold him out for money. "Fire her immediately," William said. "I want her escorted out of the building by security today, and Richard will be filing charges against her for conspiracy." "Already done, sir. She's been terminated. She tried to claim she didn't know what Lucas was doing, but the evidence is too strong." "Good. Make sure the police have everything they need to arrest her." William hung up and continued driving home. As angry as he was about Jennifer's betrayal, he felt a sense of peace growing inside him. The people who had hurt his daughter were being held accountable. The company was safe, and, most importantly, Mary was safe. When William walked through the front door, he heard the most beautiful sound in the world, laughter. He followed the sound to the living room where Mary was sitting on the floor with Clara playing with building blocks. Mary was giggling as she tried to stack blocks higher and higher, and when they tumbled down, she laughed even harder. When Mary saw William, her whole face lit up. "Daddy, I built a tower. That's amazing, sweetheart." William knelt down beside her. "You're such a good builder. Miss Clara says, maybe when I grow up I can build buildings like you," Mary said proudly. "You can be anything you want to be," William said, pulling her into a gentle hug. "Anything at all." As he held his daughter, feeling her small heartbeat against his chest, William made a silent promise. He would spend the rest of his life making sure Mary knew she was loved, protected, and valued. He would be the father she deserved, and he would never, ever let anyone hurt her again. 6 weeks after the arrest, the trial began. The courtroom was packed with reporters, spectators, and witnesses. William sat in the front row, his lawyer, Richard Campbell, beside him. Mary was not required to testify. The judge had ruled that the video evidence and medical reports were sufficient, and that making Mary relive her trauma in court would be cruel. Sarah's trial came first. She sat at the defense table looking small and defeated, nothing like the confident, cruel woman she had been. Her public defender tried to argue that she had been manipulated by Lucas, that she was a victim too. But the evidence was overwhelming. Dr. Stevens testified about Mary's injuries, the bruises at different stages of healing, the malnutrition, the psychological trauma. Mrs. Thompson testified about Mary's decline at school, the calls she made that were blocked, the fear in Mary's eyes. Clara testified about what she witnessed in the house, the abuse, the starvation, the cruelty, and then Richard played the security footage for the entire courtroom. Video after video of Sarah hitting Mary, screaming at her, locking her in closets, dumping food on her. By the time the footage ended, several jury members were crying. The judge herself looked shaken. The jury deliberated for only 2 hours before returning with their verdict. We find the defendant, Sarah Clinton Jackson, guilty on all counts. Sarah collapsed in her chair sobbing, but William felt no pity. She had hurt his daughter. She deserved everything that was coming to her. At sentencing a week later, the judge looked at Sarah with cold eyes. Mrs. Jackson, you systematically tortured a helpless 9-year-old child. You starved her, beat her, terrorized her, and you did it all while pretending to be her mother. I have seen many cases in my career, but few have disgusted me as much as this one. The judge paused, then continued. I am sentencing you to 15 years in prison with no possibility of parole. You will also be required to pay $50,000 in restitution to the victim for medical expenses and therapy, and you will have a permanent restraining order preventing you from ever contacting Mary Jackson or William Jackson again. Sarah was led away in handcuffs, still crying. Lucas's trial was longer and more complex because of all the corporate crimes, but the evidence was just as overwhelming. The prosecution presented the stolen documents, the bribery evidence, the money laundering records, and the audio recordings of Lucas conspiring with Sarah. Lucas's expensive lawyer, Marcus Steele, tried every trick in the book. He claimed Lucas was framed. He argued that the recordings were taken out of context. He suggested that William had fabricated evidence because of a family rivalry, but none of it worked. The jury saw through Lucas's lies. When the prosecution played the recording of Lucas telling Sarah to make sure the brat is too scared to talk and discussing William's potential accident, the jury's faces showed pure disgust. Lucas was found guilty on all counts: corporate fraud, theft, conspiracy to commit harm to a minor, and conspiracy to commit murder. At his sentencing, Lucas showed no remorse. He stood before the judge with his jaw clenched, his eyes burning with hatred. Mr. Lucas Jackson, the judge said, you betrayed your own brother. You tried to steal his life's work. You conspired to abuse his daughter, and you planned to murder him. You are not just a criminal, you are a monster. The judge sentenced Lucas to 25 years in prison with no possibility of parole for the first 15 years. He was also ordered to pay back all the money he stole plus damages totaling $5 million. As Lucas was led away, he turned and looked at William one last time. This isn't over, brother, he hissed. But William didn't flinch. Yes, it is, he said calmly. You lost, and now you'll spend the best years of your life in prison thinking about how your greed destroyed you. Lucas was dragged away screaming threats and curses. Jennifer Cole Williams, former assistant, was also tried and convicted for conspiracy. She received 5 years in prison for her role in blocking communications and helping Lucas spy on William. After the trials ended, William felt like he could finally breathe again. Justice had been served. The people who hurt Mary were locked away. The company was secure, and most importantly, Mary was healing. 3 months after the trials, Mary returned to school. William drove her there himself on her first day back, walking her all the way to Mrs. Thompson's classroom. Are you ready, sweetheart? William asked, kneeling down to her level. Mary looked nervous but nodded. I think so. Remember, if you feel scared or need me, Mrs. Thompson has my number. I can be here in 10 minutes. Okay, Daddy. Mary walked into the classroom, and immediately her classmates surrounded her with hugs and excitement. Mary, you're back. We missed you so much. Come sit with us at lunch. William watched through the doorway as Mary smiled a real, genuine smile and joined her friends. She was going to be okay. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed creating it. Like, share, and comment on the lessons you've learned. Let me know where you're watching from in the comments below.